March 1900. A small town in Pennsylvania where the smell of fresh milk mixed with an odd, almost sour aroma that would soon become America's most recognizable taste. Milton Hershey stood in his experimental kitchen, staring at a batch of chocolate that any European confectioner would have thrown away immediately. The mixture before him possessed a distinctive tang that violated every principle of fine chocolate making, established over centuries of Swiss and Belgian tradition. It tasted wrong, almost spoiled, with notes that reminded tasters of rancid butter or sour milk. Any rational chocolatier would have started over, adjusted the recipe, sought to eliminate these off-putting flavors that seemed to mock the smooth, refined chocolates emerging from European factories. Instead, Hershey smiled and declared this imperfect, flawed chocolate exactly what America needed. What Milton Hershey created that day would become the foundation of a chocolate empire worth billions, a taste so distinctive that millions of Americans grew up believing this was what chocolate should taste like. European chocolate makers would spend the next century baffled by American preferences, unable to comprehend how a nation could develop such loyalty to chocolate that their trained palates considered fundamentally defective. The story of how one man deliberately chose inferior flavor to build superior business reveals the mathematics of mass production triumphing over culinary perfection, and how American industrial innovation created prosperity through standardization rather than sophistication. The transformation began in 1894 when Milton Hershey attended the world's Colombian Exposition in Chicago. Walking through the massive exhibition halls that showcased industrial marvels from around the globe, Hershey encountered German chocolate-making machinery that would redirect his entire career. At 47, he was already successful, having built the Lancaster Caramel Company into one of America's largest confectionery operations. His caramels had earned recognition across the country for their consistent quality and reasonable price. But the chocolate equipment from Dresden changed everything. The intricate machinery with its steel rollers and precise temperature controls represented possibilities that captured his imagination completely. The German exhibitors demonstrated how raw cacao beans could be transformed into smooth, flowing chocolate through mechanical processes that eliminated the laborious handwork traditional in European chocolate houses. Hershey watched as beans were roasted, cracked, winnowed, ground, and refined through automated systems that could process thousands of pounds daily, rather than the dozens of pounds managed by traditional methods. More importantly, he thought that these machines could produce chocolate consistently, with uniform flavor and recognized texture that hand methods' consistency could never achieve. This, his success in a rapidly realized, was the key to mass-market industrializing America. Within months, Hershey had purchased complete chocolate manufacturing equipment and installed it in a wing of his Lancaster factory. His first experiments produced European-style chocolate that met traditional standards for smoothness and refined flavor. The chocolate was excellent by conventional measures, rich and complex, with the subtle notes that European connoisseurs prized. But Hershey quickly identified critical problems that would doom any attempt to compete with established European manufacturers using their own methods. European chocolate required expensive imported ingredients, particularly high-grade cacao beans from specific regions and pure cane sugar refined to precise specifications. The manufacturing processes demanded skilled technicians who understood the subtle variables that affected flavor development. Most significantly, European chocolate spoiled quickly without refrigeration, making distribution across America's vast distances nearly impossible. The infrastructure for maintaining chocolate quality from factory to consumer simply didn't exist outside major cities. Hershey's breakthrough came through deliberate compromise rather than accidental discovery. He recognized that creating successful mass-market chocolate in America required abandoning European standards entirely and developing formulations suited to American conditions and American preferences. The key insight was understanding that most Americans had never tasted premium European chocolate, and therefore had no preconceived notions about what chocolate should taste like. This created an opportunity to establish new standards based on practical manufacturing requirements rather than traditional culinary ideals. The experimental process that followed would have horrified European chocolate masters. Hershey systematically tested formulations using readily available American ingredients, particularly fresh milk from Pennsylvania dairy farms and sugar from American refineries. The milk created immediate technical challenges because combining dairy products with chocolate required precise temperature control and timing to prevent spoilage. Traditional European methods avoided this complexity by using minimal or no milk, relying instead on pure chocolate flavors enhanced by expensive additions like vanilla from Madagascar or nuts from specific regions. Hershey's solution involved a radical departure from conventional practice. He developed a process that partially soured the milk before combining it with chocolate, creating what food scientists now call controlled lipolysis. The process broke down milk fats in ways that created distinctive flavor compounds, particularly butyric acid, which produces the tangy, slightly sour notes that became characteristic of American chocolate. European chocolate makers considered these flavors defects to be eliminated. Hershey embraced them as features that would distinguish his products. The controlled souring process offered crucial advantages for mass production and distribution. The chemical changes that created the distinctive flavor also acted as natural preservatives, extending shelf life significantly compared to traditional chocolate formulations. Products that might spoil within days using European methods could remain stable for weeks using Hershey's approach. This durability was essential for reaching customers across America's expanding transportation networks, from railroad stops in rural communities to general stores in frontier towns where refrigeration was impossible. Temperature stability provided another crucial advantage. Traditional European chocolate melted easily in warm conditions, becoming unusable during summer months or in southern climates. Hershey's formulation, with its modified milk proteins and controlled crystalline structure, remained stable at higher temperatures. This allowed year-round sales across all American regions, dramatically expanding the potential market compared to seasonal or geographically limited European-style products. The economic advantages of American ingredients proved equally important. Pennsylvania dairy farms could supply fresh milk at costs far below what European chocolate makers paid for imported ingredients. American sugar refineries provided consistent, affordable sweetening that eliminated dependence on international commodity markets. Local sourcing also meant shorter supply chains, reduced transportation costs, and greater control over ingredient quality and availability. By 1903, Hershey had perfected his formulation and was ready for full-scale commercial production. The decision to build a completely new factory town in rural Pennsylvania rather than expand existing urban facilities reflected his commitment to controlling every aspect of production and distribution. The town of Hershey, constructed specifically around chocolate manufacturing, represented industrial planning on a scale that amazed contemporary observers. Streets laid out in grids, worker housing designed for efficiency, schools and recreational facilities provided as employee benefits, all centered around the massive chocolate factory that would become America's sweetest industrial landmark. The factory itself embodied principles of mass production that borrowed from automobile manufacturing and steel production. Continuous processing lines moved ingredients through roasting, grinding, mixing, and molding operations without human handling. Steam-powered machinery maintained precise temperatures and timing that eliminated the variables that plagued traditional chocolate making. Quality control focused on consistency rather than complexity, ensuring that every Hershey bar would taste identical to every other Hershey bar, a revolutionary concept in confectionery manufacturing. The workforce required for this industrial approach differed dramatically from traditional chocolate houses that employed master craftsmen with years of specialized training. Hershey's factory workers learned specific repetitive tasks that required minimal training, but could be performed reliably by anyone willing to follow procedures carefully. The democratization of chocolate production paralleled developments in other American industries, proving that complex products could be manufactured by ordinary workers using well-designed systems and equipment. The resulting chocolate bars that rolled off Hershey's production lines in 1905 possessed characteristics that would have been considered flaws by European standards, but proved perfectly suited to American markets and American tastes. The distinctive tang that European confectioners found objectionable became the signature flavor that American consumers embraced as authentically chocolatey. The slightly granular texture that traditional methods sought to eliminate provided satisfying substance that made each bite feel substantial rather than fleeting. The robust flavor profile that could overwhelm delicate palates proved perfect for consumers accustomed to bold American tastes in everything from coffee to cheese. Marketing the new chocolate required educating American consumers about what they should expect and want from chocolate products. Hershey's advertising campaigns, launched in newspapers and magazines across the country, emphasized freshness, purity, and American-made quality, rather than European sophistication or traditional craftsmanship. The messaging positioned Hershey's chocolate as modern, reliable, and democratic, rather than exclusive or elite. Every advertisement reinforced the idea that good chocolate should be accessible to working families, not reserved for wealthy connoisseurs. The 5-cent Hershey bar introduced in 1908 represented a pricing revolution that made chocolate consumption routine rather than special. European chocolates typically cost equivalent to an hour's wages for working-class Americans, limiting consumption to holidays and celebrations. Hershey's pricing made chocolate affordable for daily consumption, transforming it from luxury indulgence to ordinary pleasure. The psychological impact proved as important as the economic advantage. When chocolate became affordable, it became normal. And when it became normal, Hershey's distinctive flavor became the standard against which all other chocolate was measured. Distribution networks that Hershey developed reached into every corner of American commerce. Unlike European chocolate makers who focused on urban markets with established confectionery shops, Hershey's products appeared in railroad stations, general stores, 5 and dime shops, and eventually corner groceries in small towns across the continent. The durability that resulted from the controlled souring process made this extensive distribution possible. Products shipped by rail across thousands of miles arrived in perfect condition, maintaining flavor and appearance that satisfied customers who had never experienced chocolate spoilage. The standardization that horrified European traditionalists became Hershey's greatest competitive advantage. Every bar produced identical satisfaction, eliminating the uncertainty that plagued purchases of artisanal products. Customers knew exactly what they would receive regardless of location or season. This reliability created brand loyalty that transcended regional preferences and cultural differences. A Hershey bar purchased in Maine tasted identical to one purchased in California, providing consistency that became increasingly valuable as Americans became more mobile. Industrial espionage attempts by European chocolate companies revealed the extent to which traditional manufacturers misunderstood American methods. Representatives from Swiss and Belgian firms visited Hershey's facilities, expecting to discover secret ingredients or hidden techniques that explained American success. Instead, they found straightforward industrial processes, using readily available materials and conventional equipment. The visitors consistently concluded that American chocolate succeeded despite inferior methods rather than because of superior innovation. This fundamental misunderstanding prevented European companies from developing effective responses to American competition for decades. The economic mathematics of mass production versus artisanal craftsmanship favored Hershey's approach overwhelmingly. Where European chocolate houses might produce hundreds of pounds weekly using skilled craftsmen, Hershey's factory produced thousands of pounds daily, using systematized processes and ordinary workers. The cost advantages compounded at every level. Raw materials cost less, labor costs fell dramatically per unit produced, and distribution economies of scale reduced delivery expenses. These savings allowed pricing that made competition impossible for traditional manufacturers serving American markets. Quality control innovations developed at Hershey became industry standards that influenced food manufacturing far beyond chocolate. The company pioneered systematic testing of ingredients, monitoring of and statistical production parameters analysis of product consistency. Temperature and timing controls that ensured uniform flavor development were documented and replicated across multiple production lines. Worker training programs that emphasized procedure compliance rather than individual judgment created reliability that traditional apprenticeship systems couldn't match. The cultural transformation that accompanied Hershey's success changed American expectations about chocolate permanently. Children growing up eating Hershey bars developed taste preferences that persisted into adulthood. The tangy, robust flavor profile became the baseline against which all chocolate was evaluated. European chocolates, with their smooth, subtle flavors, often seemed bland or insufficient to palates trained on American products. This created a self-reinforcing cycle where American preferences drove continued demand for American-style chocolate. International expansion attempts by European manufacturers during the 1910s and 1920s demonstrated the power of established taste preferences. Premium imported chocolates available in major American cities attracted limited audiences despite superior ingredients and traditional craftsmanship. Most American consumers, when offered choices between familiar Hershey products and unfamiliar European alternatives, consistently chose the known quantity. Price differences amplified this preference, but blind taste tests revealed that many Americans genuinely preferred Hershey's flavor profile even when cost wasn't a factor. The technical innovations that enabled mass chocolate production influenced broader American industrial development. Continuous processing techniques pioneered at Hershey were adapted for manufacturing everything from breakfast cereals to canned goods. Temperature control systems designed for chocolate processing found applications in steel production and chemical manufacturing. The integration of quality control with high-volume production became a model studied by industrial engineers across multiple sectors. Labor relations at Hershey reflected progressive management theories that recognized worker satisfaction as essential to product quality. Unlike traditional European chocolate houses where master craftsmen jealously guarded trade secrets, Hershey's system required cooperation and communication among workers performing complementary tasks. Training programs that taught workers to understand their role in larger production processes created investment in company success that translated to lower turnover and higher productivity. World War I provided unexpected validation of Hershey's approach when military contracts required chocolate products that could withstand extreme conditions. Traditional European chocolates melted in tropical climates and spoiled without refrigeration, making them unsuitable for military use. Hershey's formulations proved ideal for feeding soldiers in diverse environments, from French trenches to Pacific Islands. The stability that originally served American distribution needs became crucial for global military logistics. The government contracts that resulted from military requirements provided capital for expansion that accelerated Hershey's dominance. New production lines designed specifically for military specifications incorporated innovations that improved civilian products as well. Packaging developments that protected chocolate during overseas shipping enhanced shelf life for domestic consumers. Quality control procedures demanded by military inspectors raised standards throughout the company's operations. Post-war expansion into international markets revealed the extent to which American chocolate had developed unique characteristics. Hershey's products exported to European countries received mixed responses from consumers accustomed to traditional styles. However, American expatriates and tourists created steady demand for familiar flavors that European manufacturers couldn't satisfy. This niche market provided insights into cultural preferences that would influence global food marketing for decades. The 1920s brought unprecedented prosperity to America, and with it came opportunities that would test every principle Milton Hershey had established during his company's formative years. Prohibition had eliminated alcohol from American social life, creating a void that confectionery products rushed to fill. Ice cream parlors and candy shops became gathering places where families spent leisure time previously devoted to saloons and beer gardens. The automobile revolution put middle-class families on roads connecting small towns to urban centers, creating demand for portable snacks that could survive hours in hot cars without refrigeration. Hershey's distinctive chocolate proved perfectly suited to this transformed American lifestyle. The controlled souring process that European experts had criticized as primitive now revealed itself as prophetic engineering. While premium chocolates melted into sticky messes in automobile glove compartments, Hershey bars maintained their shape and flavor through summer road trips across the expanding highway system. The robust taste that sophisticates dismissed as coarse cut through the sensory overload of jazz age, providing entertainment satisfaction that subtle European flavors couldn't deliver in noisy speakeasies and crowded movie theaters. The economic boom of the 20s enabled Hershey to invest in manufacturing innovations that widened the gap between American mass production and European artisanal methods. New mixing equipment developed in partnership with machinery manufacturers created chocolate with even more consistent texture and flavor distribution. Automated wrapping systems reduced labor costs while improving product protection during shipping and storage. Most significantly, refrigerated railroad cars allowed fresh milk delivery from dairy farms hundreds of miles away, ensuring ingredient quality that had previously required local sourcing. These technological advances enabled production volumes that stagger observers. By contemporary 1925, Hershey's factories processed over 50 million pounds of chocolate annually, more than the combined output of Switzerland's most established manufacturers. The mathematics of industrial efficiency, compounded daily as production lines that had seemed impossibly fast in 1905, were replaced by equipment that moved twice as quickly with half the workforce. Workers who had learned their tasks through months of training now required only weeks to achieve proficiency on increasingly sophisticated machinery. The cultural impact of this chocolate abundance extended far beyond simple consumption statistics. American children grew up expecting chocolate to be readily available rather than reserved for special occasions. School lunch programs incorporated chocolate milk as a standard offering, introducing the distinctive Hershey flavor profile to millions of young palates during their most formative years. Halloween traditions evolved to include chocolate bars as primary treats, creating seasonal demand spikes that European manufacturers couldn't meet with their limited production capacity. International visitors during the 1920s consistently remarked on American chocolate consumption patterns that seemed extraordinary by European standards. Business travelers from London or Paris observed office workers casually purchasing chocolate bars for afternoon snacks, factory workers eating chocolate during lunch breaks, and families serving chocolate desserts with weeknight dinners. These behaviors, routine in America, represented luxury consumption levels that only wealthy Europeans could afford. The stock market crash of 1929 tested Hershey's business model in ways that revealed the wisdom of focusing on affordable pleasure rather than premium indulgence. While luxury goods manufacturers watched sales collapse as consumers eliminated non-essential purchases, Hershey discovered that chocolate represented comforts during difficult times rather than extravagance to be abandoned. The 5-cent price point that had democratized chocolate consumption during prosperous years became a psychological anchor during the Depression, providing accessible pleasure when more expensive entertainments became impossible. Milton Hershey's legacy transcends chocolate manufacturing to represent a fundamental truth about American industrial philosophy. By deliberately choosing practicality over perfection, accessibility over exclusivity, and mass production over artisanal craftsmanship, he created not just a confectionery empire, but a template for democratic capitalism that would influence industries far beyond food manufacturing. That distinctive tang that horrified European experts became America's taste, proving that sometimes the greatest innovations emerge from embracing what traditionalists consider flaws.